Alright, hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to be working in Unreal Engine 4. We're going to create a really simple bouncing ball, but this bouncing ball, it's going to bounce off surfaces, it's never going to lose velocity, it's just going to be a typical, just kind of forever bouncing ball. Except we're going to make it so every time it collides with the surfaces, it's going to change the color of the material on that ball. So first things first, let's just go into the content browser. And we're going to set up a scene, really simple. It's just, 6 walls, just an enclosed space where the ball can, be free to bounce wherever it wants. So with that, I'm just going to grab this floor panel. I filtered by static mesh. It's the floor underscore 400 by 400. So let's place that into the scene. Let's throw in a light. If you hold down the L key and left click, kind of like in UDK, you'll create a light. Now let's just go ahead and just start building a room here. We'll do 4 by 4. Let's select all these guys. I think if you control G, yep. If you control G with all those objects selected, it'll create a group. So I'm just gonna Alt drag out a copy. Let's go into unlit mode just to make sure everything snaps together. Move that in. Go up. And also do these walls. Okay. Back to lit mode. Let's make the attenuation 2000 just so we can see everything. So now here's our room. Let me go ahead and save. So now I'll show you the actual bouncing ball blueprint. So let me remove that filter. Go to my blueprints. Here's my breakout ball. So I'm going to right click in the scene, place actor. So here's our ball. It's an emissive ball. Has it's pretty bright. And just to eliminate the whole the eye exposure thing, we're going to also create a post-processing volume. So under volumes on the left-hand side under your modes, go to post-processing. We're just going to fit it so it takes up the whole map. Alright. Alright, we're good. And then in the details properties of that post-process volume, we're going under auto exposure. Just going to make that both 1. And then with this light, we're going to set its brightness to about 8,000. Oops. Actually, let's make it 20,000, just so we can see it. That looks good. I'll increase it a little bit more. There we go. So there's our scene. Let me go ahead and just build everything real quick. And then all we really need to do is create a player start, and we'll be able to go right into there and start seeing our ball interacting. But what we can also do once it's done building, we'll just go into simulation mode, and it should begin the simulation where it's going to be bouncing. So let's go ahead and get started here. So we go under play or just simulate. There's the ball, and every time it bounces off a surface, it changes color. Pretty simple, pretty cool stuff. So let's stop the simulation there. Let's go ahead and get started with this. So in my blueprints folder, all you really need to do is you right click, select blueprint. This one's just going to be an actor. I'm just going to name this example underscore ball. I'm just going to save my blueprints folder so everything saves. So if you double click example blue ball, not blue ball, example ball. And you go into your blueprint screen. It automatically gives you the components. So this is where you edit everything about your blueprint. So with the ball, it's going to be the ball itself, as well as its ability to move. If you want to have we'll put a particle on this as well. So you'll put the particle here. You can do a lot of different things. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we need is movement. It's going to be a projectile movement, and then we're going to name this variable. We're just going to call this ball underscore movement. Under tooltip, basically a tooltip is like a small description of what this is. So if you want to be concise and organized, you go ahead and name this. We're going to call this the movement of the ball. And now with that, there's a couple parameters for the actual ball's movement that we want to go ahead and affect. It's going to be basically projectile gravity. That's going to be set to 0. It's not going to have any kind of gravity, because if it did, it would just simulate like a normal ball and then eventually stop moving. We don't want that to happen. The next thing we're going to go ahead and change here. This thing says projectile bounces. Should it bounce? Obviously, yes, we want it to bounce. Then under bounciness, we don't want any velocity to be lost, so it told us to set that to 1. So once you set bounciness to 1, that means you're not going to lose any bounciness or velocity. And then friction, we're just giving 0. We don't want there to be any kind of friction at all. And now, just depending on, I guess, the dimensional movement that you want, this is where you would set velocity. So if you want only one-dimensional, you would set this to 1. If you want 2 dimensions, you would set a value for x and y. And then if you want 3 dimensions, you would set values for all 3. So we'll do 1, 2, and 3, just to show that it'll bounce all over the place. And then with that, that's really it. So with that, we got the actual velocity, the actual movement, good to go. But honestly, there's nothing to move. So we need some sort of actor to represent the ball. So under filters, let's go to static mesh. Just look for ball or sphere. You may have something that says sphere. So I'll go under material sphere or shape sphere. They're both the same kind of thing. This one has less triangles for one reason, but I'll just choose this normal sphere. With that selected, we're going to add another component. It's going to be static mesh, and with the actual object selected in the content browser, it's going to allow you to just automatically add it. And for variable name, we'll just actually call this ball mesh. So now if we actually go into our scene, let's delete this original ball. If we go into our content browser under blueprints, let's get rid of the static mesh filter and the sphere. We're going to go to example ball. And if we throw this guy in, he's right there. And I believe if we simulate, he will start moving. And as you can see, he is. But obviously, he's not moving fast enough. So we're actually going to set a couple different parameters just to make him move faster. So let's go ahead and under ball movement, instead of it being 1, 2, and 3, let's make it like 50, 100, 150. And then we'll save that. And then in our scene, we can see it updating. So let's try to go a little faster. So let's try 100, 200, 300, save. And now he's really moving. So now we got the whole kind of bounciness working. So we'll leave those those velocity variables alone. All we really need to do now is just to set up if we want to do a particle. We'll add a particle component. So if you just look for particle, it'll give you particle system. We'll name this, but we're not going to assign anything just yet. But we'll call this ball underscore collision particle. So we got that saved. So now all we really need to do is set up the actual material. So the first thing I'm going to do, just to make this easier on myself, I'm going to make a copy of this sphere object into our static mesh folder. And then I'm going to rename him. Just rename him like SM underscore ball example. Something easy. And then I'm going to just re-update it because it's still using as a static mesh the original sphere one. So I'm just going to update it with the new ball. And all we really need to do now is give that ball a unique material that will be able to be referenced and will allow us to basically set up a material that can change color on collision. So with that, let's go into our content browser. Under materials, I have a bunch of materials already, but we'll start from scratch. Let's right click, do a material. We'll call this mat underscore ball example, just to keep all the naming the same. Let's double click on that material. It's going to open up the material editor. Kind of like what we did in UDK, we need a vector parameter. Name this ball color. And we're just going to set the default value of 1. Put that into base color and emissive color. So we got that going. But what else we'll do, we'll also set up a scalar parameter just to say we can do both. So if you type in scalar, we'll name this ball color multiplier. Set this to 5 by default. Now if we hold down the M key and left click, we should get a multiply. Let's just multiply these two together and then re-put them into base color and then emissive color. So now we have, nice bright ball. So that's what we really need to do for the actual material setup. We just got to remember the ball color and ball color multiplier names. But with that, it's pretty straightforward. We don't have to do much with that material. All we really need to do now is assign that material to the actual static mesh. So let's open up the static mesh, get our material we just made. So the mat underscore ball example. And then just add it into there. And it's as easy as that. Now we have that material set up, so let's save that. And if we actually go into our ball example, we see it's replicated just fine. And then in our scene also set up fine. So all we really need to do now is set up the behavior. So let's go into a graph, and then we first need to go into our construction script. This is how we create our dynamic material instances. It's a little different in Unreal Engine 4 than it is in UDK. Before we would have to go into Matinee, animated Matinee, everything like that. All of this can be done without Matinee. So with that, let's go ahead and we're going to set up a few things. First off, we're going to set up the dynamic material. So with the ball mesh, we're going to hold control and left click drag it out and create a get variable, because there's gets and sets, everything like that. But what we're going to do, we're going to drag out this node. We're going to type in dynamic. It's going to create a create dynamic material instance node with the ball mesh as the target. And that's all we really need to do. We just need to make sure the construction script goes into that. But we also need to create a new variable to represent that dynamic material. So let's throw this guy out there and hit promote to variable. It's going to create a new variable with the name new var. So we're just going to rename it. We're going to call this ball underscore dynamic material. Oops. And that's all we really need to do at that point. So let's go ahead, compile, and save. So now we have it all set up to where we can actually start changing the color of the ball whenever it does collide. So with that, we need to go to our normal event graph. And then with the actual ball mesh selected, let's right click, add event for ball mesh, collision, and then add on collision component hit. That's going to be basically whenever this hits anything, it's going to actually generate an event. It's going to call something. So what we want it to call, we basically want to set the vector parameter for our material instance, the one that has the ball color. So if we go back to that material, double click on it, basically ball color is what we want to affect at this very moment. So with that, let's go ahead and we're going to drag this guy out. Let's type in set vector. So we got a set vector parameter value. And then the collection, that's going to be our actual ball dynamic material. It may not match. Okay, yeah, the reason why it's not matching is because we first need to throw out that variable, the ball dynamic material, and then do set vector. So now we got that set up. Now we can plug that in. And then for parameter name, the one we named it is ball color. Very simple. So let's go back into it. And under parameter name, just name it ball color. Let me double check. Does it have a space? Yeah, it does. So just make sure it has the same kind of punctuation. And then we actually have to set up a value. You know, you can set up a value right now, or you can just do it on a once per basis. Or what you can do, there's a nifty little node. It's called make color. So basically, you can throw in random floats and then return it into a value. So with that, let's drag a couple of these guys out. Promote to variable. Actually, no, this is what we'll do. Random float. Throw them in. So as you gotta choose just a random float. We're just gonna put it into the red, green, blue. And whatever those values are, they're gonna combine together to make the vector parameter value. And then so each time it's gonna randomly generate a different color. So basically that just should be it. Let's go ahead and play. Oops. I don't know where I am. Play from here. There's our ball. And it's changing color. Each time. And we have the movement good. So far so good. But now let's go ahead and let's actually just add a particle, just for fun. But we can shoot at it. And if we shoot at it, you know, if it actually hits, it will change color. Which is always fun. And it actually reacts to impulse here. So that's a lot of fun, a lot easier too. So let's go ahead and just add the actual particle effect as well. So back in our actual blueprint, let's go back to components. Now we have the ball collision particle already set up. We just need to actually tell it what particle to choose. So I copied a particle. It's just one of the explosion particles they have, just boom. I just changed the color of it really. But with that selected in my content browser, we'll go in and just set that up. And we see it working. But we don't want it to automatically play. We're going to uncheck auto activate. Save that. We only want this, not animation, but the collision particle to play only when there's an actual collision. So let's go back into our graph. We don't need to do anything in the construction script. We just go back to the event graph. And then extending from here, we're going to create a new node. It's called activate. But first, let's delete new var. Under ball collision, let's just go do get. And then under that, let's do activate. Throw that in. So now every time we collide, it will activate. And then we're going to hit reset. Make sure that's true, just so it'll reset the particle for us. But now if we simulate every time it collides, there's our explosion particle. So it's just like boom, explosion. So we know that's working great. Just so for funsies, let's go ahead, change the actual ball movement velocity again. Let's do 500 by 600 by, I don't know, 750, just so it's super duper fast. Let's go back into simulate. Now he's going to be all over the place. Boom. But I am seeing a problem here. I've ran into this before, where that particle's not exploding every single time. So let's uncheck reset, see if that's what's causing the problem. And then let's simulate again. No. It's waiting for the whole particle to play. And then after it's done playing, whenever it collides next, that's when it's actually playing it. But as you can see in the actual event graph, every time there's a collision, you see it moving across. So that's really it. It's very simple. So right now we have everything working. This ball's changing color every time, and every once in a while it plays that collision particle effect. So that'll be it for this tutorial. As soon as I get more done with the actual breakout, I'll create more tutorials. Right now this is just for the ball itself. But before we call it a day, let's quit that. If you want to just make it a two-dimensional game, like Breakout is, all you really need to do is basically find out the axis that you want it to go in. So if you want it just to be this way, your X and Y, basically, it's the Z axis and the X axis. So by doing that under components and under your ball movement, make sure there's no Y and make that 0. So it won't have any kind of Y velocity. So now if we play, oops, it keeps spawning outside the map. So if we simulate right now, it's only going to move two-dimensionally. It's not going to move backwards or forwards. And then if you want it just to be a one-dimensional kind of thing, all you would need to do is, instead of X being 500, make that 0. And then from there, it'll just bounce up and down. And that's really it. But just for fun as well, I'm curious if we can do this. I haven't really messed with this just yet. Let's go ahead and let's attach a light to this guy. So let's go add component. Let's get a normal point light. Name this guy ball light. We're going to leave his light color how it is. We're going to compile just so everything displays, and we're going to save it. And now what we can do in the actual graph, in the normal event graph, let's go ahead and grab that ball light. Let's get him. Let's see if there's a set light color, which there is. Pretty easy. Plug that in, and then the new light color, let's just make it the same value as whatever color that ball's changing to. Let's save that. And let's get rid of this main light here, just so it's dark. Now let's simulate. We see that's working. So, just to make it more apparent, let's go ahead, go back into our components. Let's change the intensity of this light to 10,000, just to make it different. And let's build lighting one more time, just to have it built. And now we should have a ball that has a light attached to it. and that light changes color depending on the color of the ball as it collides, basically. So let's play. So it's not matching it exactly. That's strange. I wonder what's going on with that. Let's go into the graph. So the return value should be the same. I think for every time it's called, it calls out a different number. So how about this? Guess it has to be that way. I'm not too sure why they're ending up. I think because every time it creates a different color for you. Let's try that again. Let's simulate. Yeah, it chooses different colors for the light and the ball. I wonder why. I think because it's just because of the random flow each time it's called. Yeah, it changes it each time. You get to see the return value at the bottom there. Wonder. Stop. So that's how you break the color up into each individual parts. That's pretty cool. But overall, I'm satisfied, even though the light color and the actual ball color, they don't match or anything. It's still fun to look at. Maybe I'll make an additional, because that one matched, but that one doesn't look like it matches that well. Because that's purple, that's green. Sometimes they match, sometimes they don't. It's funny. Not too sure how to fix that. Maybe we can do something like this. Let's try this. I doubt it's going to work. I think it's going to do the same exact thing, but just for fun and just for learning, since I'm not too sure. Let's do the break linear color. And then let's create another make color. Put that into there, and then that into there. Let's see if the colors match now. Nope. Well, sometimes. But not all the time. Yeah, it's very weird that it does it randomly for each one. I wonder what else we can try. I'm going to look for just another minute. But overall, the thing, because everything's done, basically. Color. That's the select color. That's 2 vector. conversions to color. Curious, like, I don't know what makes the two colors different. Still doing the same thing. It's doing better now. Not anymore, because that's clearly red. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe I'll look into this a little bit more. But for now, we'll call it as it is. So we got the ball moving, changes colors on collision. We know how to make it go from one-dimensional to two-dimensional to three-dimensional. So that'll be it for this tutorial. I'm glad you guys are watching. I hope you enjoy this video. Please subscribe, like, comment, do your thing, share the video if you want. Again, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!